0:00 to 0:45. The date is January 11, 1944. The location, 24,000 feet above the snow-dusted, industrial landscape of Oschersleben, Germany. A deadly ballet unfolds in the frigid air. Hundreds of American B-17 flying fortresses, their silver skins glinting, press on through a sky thick with flak and swarming Luftwaffe fighters. Explosions blossom around them, tearing at metal and flesh. This is a mission deep into enemy territory, targeting vital German aircraft production. Suddenly, amidst the chaos, a single American P-51 Mustang, a sleek, long-nosed Predator, breaks away. It plunges into the heart of the German onslaught, a lone wolf against a pack of 30 or more enemy aircraft. How can one fighter, against such overwhelming odds, hope to make a difference? What compels a pilot to face certain destruction alone? 0:45 to 3 o'clock. His name is Major James Howell Howard, commander of the 356th Fighter Squadron, part of the 354th Fighter Group, 9th Air Force. Born in Canton, China, in 1913, where his American ophthalmologist father taught eye surgery, Howard experienced a childhood far removed from the cornfields of America. He returned to St. Louis, Missouri, at the age of 14, a quiet, somewhat reserved young man with a unique perspective shaped by his early years abroad. He initially pursued a path in medicine, following in his father's footsteps, earning a Bachelor of Arts degree from Pomona College in 1937. Yet, the call of the skies proved irresistible. In 1937, he abandoned his medical aspirations, opting instead for the thrilling life of a naval aviator. He earned his wings in 1939, serving as a U.S. Navy pilot aboard the USS Enterprise, based at Pearl Harbor. But the structured life of the Navy, even on an aircraft carrier, could not contain his restless spirit. With war brewing in Asia, Howard resigned his Navy commission in June 1941, just months before the attack on Pearl Harbor, to join the legendary American Volunteer Group, better known as the Flying Tigers. In Burma, flying the P-40 Warhawk, he honed his combat skills against the Japanese, becoming an ace with 6 confirmed aerial victories and 3 ground victories. This experience forged him into a seasoned fighter pilot, learning aggressive tactics under the tutelage of Claire Chennault. The Flying Tigers disbanded in July 1942, and Howard returned to the United States, commissioned as a captain in the U.S. Army Air Forces. By 1943, he was a major, commanding the 356th Fighter Squadron, now based in England and flying the cutting-edge P-51 Mustang. The P-51B, with its Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, offered unprecedented range, finally allowing fighters to escort bombers deep into Germany. This was a new era for air combat in Europe, but the challenge was immense. The Luftwaffe remained a formidable foe, defending its homeland with ferocity. Howard, though an accomplished ace, was still relatively new to the European theater, having achieved his first European victory, a Messerschmitt Bf 109, on December 20, 1943, during an escort mission over Bremen. He was a quiet leader, known for his intensity and his ability to inspire his squadron. Yet, even with his experience and the superior P-51, the odds against any single pilot in the skies over Germany remained staggering. 3 o'clock to 8 o'clock. The strategic bombing campaign deep into Germany was proving costly. For much of 1943, American heavy bombers flew without adequate long-range fighter escort, suffering devastating losses. The sheer distance into enemy territory meant that earlier fighter models, like the P-47 Thunderbolt, often had to turn back before the bombers reached their targets, leaving the flying fortresses vulnerable to relentless Luftwaffe attacks. Crews referred to the rear of the bomber formations as Purple Heart Corner, due to the high casualty rates. The arrival of the P-51 Mustang was a game-changer, its extended range promising to finally provide continuous protection. But the tactics were still evolving, and the sheer scale of German air defenses was immense. No one believed a single fighter could genuinely influence a major engagement against dozens of enemy aircraft. Fighter command doctrine, based on hard-won experience and statistical analysis, emphasized teamwork, formation flying, and the principle of disengaging from overwhelming odds. A lone fighter pilot, separated from his squadron, was expected to conserve fuel and ammunition, and return to base. To do otherwise was considered suicidal, an act of futile heroics that would only result in the loss of a valuable pilot and aircraft without significant impact on the larger battle. They were all wrong. The skepticism extended beyond the strategic planners. Pilots, seasoned veterans of countless dogfights, understood the brutal arithmetic of aerial combat. 1 against 30 was not a fight, it was an execution. Even the most aggressive aces knew the limits of their machines and their own endurance. The sky over Germany was a crucible, where survival often hinged on disciplined adherence to established procedures and the collective strength of a formation. The idea of a one-man air force was a romantic fantasy, not a viable combat strategy. The 401st Bomb Group, on their 14th combat mission, had known the terror of unescorted deep penetrations. They had seen their comrades fall, their aircraft shredded by cannon fire and exploding rockets. Their objective on January 11, 1944, was the Messerschmitt Bf 110 fighter production plants at Oschersleben and Halberstadt, Germany. This was a critical target, deep within the Reich, and the Luftwaffe would defend it with everything they had. The plan called for P-47s to provide the initial escort, with Howard's P-51s taking over the protection over the target area. But deteriorating winter weather over England had led to a recall order for some of the P-47s, leaving gaps in the escort. The bombers, pressing on, knew the risks were higher than ever. They needed their escorts, not just in numbers, but with unwavering commitment. The prevailing wisdom said that even with the P-51, the sheer ferocity of the German response would be overwhelming, and individual acts of valor, however brave, would be swallowed by the maelstrom. 8:32:00. The morning of January 11, 1944, dawns cold and gray over England. Major James Howard, at 30 years old, prepares for another mission into the heart of the Third Reich. He leads 3 squadrons of P-51 Mustangs from the 354th Fighter Group. Their objective is to provide crucial escort for the heavy bombers of the 8th Air Force, specifically the 401st Bomb Group, as they strike deep into Germany. Howard climbs into his P-51B Mustang, serial number 436315, nicknamed Ding Hao, a Chinese phrase meaning very good or number 1, a nod to his Flying Tiger past. The powerful Packard Merlin engine roars to life, promising speed and range that were once unimaginable for a fighter. The formation pushes eastward, crossing the North Sea and into enemy airspace. The air is frigid at 24,000 feet, the aluminum skin of the Mustang growing slick with ice. Below, the landscape of occupied Europe slowly unfolds, a patchwork of white and gray. The mission is long, demanding, and fraught with danger. Howard understands the stakes. These bomber crews are risking everything to cripple Germany's war machine. Their morale hinges on the sight of friendly fighters alongside them. As they approach Oschersleben, the target area, the sky begins to fill with ominous signs. Distant contrails multiply, converging on the bomber stream. The Luftwaffe is here, in force, determined to defend their factories. Howard's group meets the bombers, a welcome sight for the weary bomber crews who have already endured flak and the psychological strain of the deep penetration. Suddenly, the German fighters strike. Messerschmitt Bf 109s, Focke-Wulf FW-190s, and twin-engine Messerschmitt Bf 110s dive and weave, a deadly swarm descending on the B-17s. Howard, leading the 356th Fighter Squadron, immediately engages. He spots a Messerschmitt Bf 110, a twin-engine heavy fighter, a dangerous adversary for bombers. With a burst of fire from his 6.50 caliber machine guns, he closes in. The German aircraft trails smoke, then explodes, a fiery blossom against the cold sky. This initial engagement is a wild melee, a chaotic dance of death and survival. In the heat of the moment, pursuing the enemy, Howard becomes separated from his wingmen and then from the rest of his squadron. He finds himself alone, adrift in a sky suddenly thick with enemy aircraft. A quick glance around confirms his isolation. The other P-51 squadrons he dispatched to protect the middle and rear bomber formations are engaged elsewhere, a swirling vortex of combat in the distance. But the lead bomber formation, the 401st Bomb Group, is under intense, sustained attack, with no other friendly fighters in sight. Howard has a choice: disengage, conserve his remaining fuel and ammunition, and return to base, or plunge back into the fray, alone, against overwhelming odds. The fighter pilot's manual screams for disengagement. Every fiber of his being, however, pulls him towards the struggling bombers. He sees their vulnerability, the desperate struggle of the gunners against the relentless assaults. "I seen my duty and I done it," he would later recall, a simple, understated declaration of extraordinary resolve. He turns his P-51, Ding Hao, and banks sharply, diving back into the maelstrom. He races towards the lead formation of B-17s. A solitary guardian against a horde of German fighters. The enemy pilots, confident in their numerical superiority, press their attacks with increasing ferocity. They are a mix of skilled veterans and young, determined pilots defending their homeland. Howard's strategy is not to engage in prolonged dogfights, but to attack, disrupt, and scatter the German formations. He becomes a blur of motion, a silver streak weaving through the enemy. He targets any German fighter making a direct run on a B-17. He dives, fires, then pulls away, only to re-engage another target. His P-51, with its superior speed and maneuverability, becomes a weapon of disruption. He attacks a Focke-Wulf FW-190 pressing in on a B-17. With a quick burst, he sends it spinning out of control. Another Messerschmitt Bf-109 takes aim, but Howard is already there, forcing it to break off its attack. The bomber crews watch in stunned disbelief. They see a single P-51, their one-man air force, as Major Allison C. Brooks, group leader for the 401st, would later describe him. He is everywhere at once, a whirlwind of aggression, seemingly impervious to the danger. He executes daring head-on passes, forcing enemy pilots to flinch and abandon their attack runs. He makes repeated, determined attacks for more than 30 minutes. The German pilots, initially confident, begin to show signs of frustration. They are accustomed to overwhelming isolated bombers, but this single, tenacious Mustang is proving to be an infuriating obstacle. They try to coordinate their attacks, attempting to box him in, but Howard's skill and the P-51's performance allow him to evade their traps. He is constantly scanning, anticipating, and reacting with lightning speed. The strain is immense. His vision blurs, his muscles ache, but he pushes on, fueled by an unwavering commitment to the men in the bombers. He sees a pair of Bf-109s attempting to finish off a damaged B-17, its engine smoking, struggling to maintain formation. Howard doesn't hesitate. He barrels in, guns blazing, breaking up their attack. One Bf-109 shies away. The other takes a direct hit and tumbles earthward. The bomber crew, now with a momentary reprieve, can only watch in awe. Their radio channels are alive with exclamations of amazement and gratitude. Who is that Mustang pilot? They wonder. He's taking on the whole Luftwaffe single-handedly. Howard's P-51, Ding Hao, is a constant presence, a silver blur against the gray sky. He weaves through the bomber formation, creating a protective envelope, a zone of danger for any German pilot foolish enough to enter it. He is not just shooting down enemy aircraft. He is disrupting their entire attack strategy. The German pilots cannot concentrate their fire on the B-17s because they are constantly forced to react to Howard's unpredictable and aggressive maneuvers. The psychological impact of his lone stand is enormous. For the bomber crews, it is a beacon of hope. For the German pilots, it is a maddening, seemingly impossible obstacle. His ammunition begins to run low. He has already expended thousands of rounds, the recoil shaking his aircraft with each burst. He checks his gauges. Fuel is also becoming a concern, but he cannot disengage. Not yet. The bombers are still under heavy assault. He presses on, even as 3 of his 4 guns go out of action, leaving him with only a single operational machine gun. Most pilots would consider this the end of the line, a clear signal to withdraw. But not Howard. His determination remains absolute. With limited firepower, he changes tactics. He begins to make dry runs, diving on enemy aircraft even without firing, using the sheer intimidation of his approach to break up their attacks. He performs aggressive, high-speed passes, forcing German fighters to take evasive action, disrupting their targeting solutions. The enemy pilots, seeing the P-51 hurtling towards them, cannot know if his guns are firing or not. The psychological pressure is immense. They break off, losing their advantageous positions, giving the B-17 gunners precious seconds to react. The half-hour mark passes. Howard has been engaged in continuous, high-intensity combat, alone, against a numerically superior foe, for a duration that defies belief. The cockpit is cold, filled with the smell of cordite and the roar of the engine. His hands are locked on the controls, his eyes constantly searching, his mind processing an overwhelming amount of information. He is flying on instinct, on courage, and on an unbreakable will to protect the bombers. He sees a group of FW-190s attempting to flank the formation, aiming for a coordinated attack. Howard banks sharply, cutting them off, forcing them to scatter. He is a shepherd, herding his flock away from the wolves, but he is also a wolf himself, striking fear into the hearts of the enemy. The German pilots, who outnumber him by a significant margin, are unable to capitalize on their advantage. They are constantly reacting to his presence, losing their initiative, and breaking their attack patterns. The sheer audacity of his actions is baffling to them. The battle rages, a swirling vortex of aircraft and tracers. Howard is a solitary point of light in a dark sky, a symbol of defiance against overwhelming odds. He continues his aggressive feints, making every German pilot think twice before pressing an attack. He is a living, breathing shield for the B-17s. The bomber crews can feel his presence, a tangible force protecting them. They report his incredible performance over their radios, their voices filled with awe and gratitude. He's absolutely fearless. It's a one-man show up here. By the end of this extraordinary engagement, Howard is credited with destroying 3 enemy airplanes, probably destroying others, and damaging even more. Some accounts suggest he shot down as many as 6. More importantly, for the entire 30 minutes he was engaged, not a single B-17 from the formation he was protecting was lost to enemy fighters. This fact alone is a testament to the effectiveness of his lone stand. He has defied every tactical manual, every conventional wisdom, and rewritten the rules of aerial combat. Finally, with his fuel critically low and his remaining gun silent, Howard is forced to disengage. He reluctantly turns his P-51 towards home, leaving the battered but intact bomber formation to continue its journey. He has given them the precious time and protection they needed to survive the most dangerous leg of their mission. As he flies away, he looks back one last time at the receding bomber stream, still under attack in the distance, but now with other P-51s rejoining them. He has held the line, alone, against impossible odds. 32:00:38:00. The final moments of the engagement are a slow-motion tableau of raw courage and desperation. Howard's P-51, Ding Hao, now a nearly spent arrow, slices through the frigid air. The rhythmic thrum of his remaining engine is a solitary comfort in the vast emptiness of the sky. He checks his fuel gauges one last time, dangerously low. His single remaining gun is empty, a silent testament to the fury he has unleashed. He is exhausted, his body screaming for respite, but his mind remains razor-sharp, focused on the immediate, unrelenting threat. Below him, the lead formation of B-17s, the 401st Bomb Group, is still under assault. 2 Messerschmitt Bf-109s, their engines whining, peel off from a larger group, targeting a struggling B-17 at the edge of the formation. The bomber has already taken hits, smoke trailing from one engine, its speed dropping. The German pilots, sensing weakness, press their advantage, their cannons ready to tear the flying fortress apart. They are close, too close. Howard sees them. He is out of ammunition, his fuel is almost gone, but his commitment is absolute. He shoves the stick forward, pushing Ding Hao into a steep, screaming dive. The air howls around his canopy as he hurtles towards the unsuspecting Bf-109s. He is not attacking to kill, but to intimidate, to disrupt, to simply be there. The German pilots, their focus entirely on the crippled bomber, are caught completely by surprise. Howard flashes between them, a silver phantom appearing from nowhere. He pulls up sharply, directly into their path, forcing them to react. The lead Bf-109 pilot, startled by the sudden appearance of the P-51, wrenches his stick hard, breaking off his attack run with a violent maneuver. The second Bf-109, momentarily disoriented, hesitates. This split-second delay is all Howard needs. He banks hard, bringing his silent guns to bear, pretending to fire. The German pilot, seeing the aggressive move, concludes the P-51 still poses a threat. He too breaks off, sacrificing his perfect firing solution, abandoning the attack. Howard circles back, a silent sentinel, his presence alone enough to deter further immediate assaults. He flies a wide, protective arc around the vulnerable B-17, forcing any approaching German fighters to engage him first, or risk a head-on pass with an apparently still armed Mustang. The tension is palpable, a silent standoff. He knows he cannot sustain this much longer. He has pushed his aircraft, and himself, to the absolute limit. His eyes, burning with fatigue, scan the horizon. Far in the distance, he spots them, the faint, familiar contrails of other P-51s, finally rejoining the bomber stream. Reinforcements. Relief. The battle shifts, the odds begin to even. Howard has bought them time. He has held the line. With a lingering look at the now safer bomber formation, he gently banks his P-51, turning westward, towards the distant, friendly skies of England. His mission, against all logic and expectation, is complete. 38:00 End. Major James Howard's actions on January 11, 1944, transcended the bounds of conventional aerial combat. His lone stand over Oschersleben, Germany, became legendary, quickly dubbed the one-man Air Force by the grateful bomber crews he protected. Their eyewitness accounts, filled with awe and disbelief, spread rapidly throughout the 8th Air Force. Colonel Harold Bowman, commander of the 401st Bomb Group, filed an immediate recommendation for the Medal of Honor, the United States' highest military decoration. The story captured the imagination of a nation at war. Stars and Stripes reporter Andy Rooney, then a wartime correspondent, interviewed Howard and the bomber crews, calling it the greatest fighter pilot story of World War II. Magazines like the Saturday Evening Post and Popular Science featured his exploits, making Major James Howard famous overnight. Official records credited him with 3 confirmed kills that day, with several more probable and damaged aircraft. But the true measure of his success lay in the fact that not a single B-17 from the formation he shielded was lost to enemy fighters during his incredible 30-minute solo engagement. In June 1944, Major Howard, now Lieutenant Colonel, was presented the Medal of Honor by General Karl Spaatz for his conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity above and beyond the call of duty. He remains the only fighter pilot in the European theater of operations during World War II to receive this esteemed award. His bravery and unconventional tactics profoundly influenced 8th Air Force escort doctrine, demonstrating the immense psychological and tactical impact a determined fighter pilot could have, even against overwhelming odds. The principles he demonstrated continue to be studied in modern air combat. Howard's career continued, and he helped direct fighter cover for the Allied Normandy landings on D-Day, later earning a promotion to colonel in 1945. He retired from the Air Force Reserve in 1966 as a brigadier general. After the war, he embarked on a successful career as a businessman, author, and airport director. James Howell Howard passed away on March 18, 1995, and is buried at Arlington National Cemetery. His story is a powerful testament to the individual courage and unwavering commitment that defined so many during World War II. It is a reminder that even in the most complex and mechanized of conflicts, the human element, the grit, the will, the sheer refusal to surrender, can turn the tide against seemingly impossible odds. James Howard did not just protect bombers that day. He inspired a generation and carved his name into the annals of aviation history as the one-man Air Force. If this story moved you, subscribe. New forgotten stories every week. Which moment surprised you most? Comment below.